Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this free recap video I'm going to actually walk you through something we call a trade of the week here. And each week we all pick a trade. We take turns picking a trade actually, and we share it with the group, and I'm actually going to share with you the trade of the week for this week, and it's XLF. And I want to talk about the timing because this has a lot to do with tomorrow's FOMC, and I want to also talk about some of the indicators that I have running on this and how to look at an ETF and understand the weighting. What is a relative performance leader to the upside, and also what I call a relative performance leader to the downside. I know it's an unorthodox way to look at it, but I think when you look at relative performance as the best stock to buy and the best stock to short, not leaders and laggards, although that's fine too. If you want to get long, you want to focus on leaders to the upside, and if you want to short, you would focus on laggards. That would be great to the downside. And it really just emphasizes this truth that I think is really basic to how I look at watch list building. And that is this: your buy watch list cannot look like your sell watch list. And I think a lot of traders will have just a singular watch list, and and it's just even a buy or a sell. It's just a watch list, and whatever the names are on it, they're open to shorts, they're open to buys on it. They'll look either way on each one of these, and I think that's actually an error. And this is where having a lot of Forex experience and understanding contrast and relative performance when you're playing one currency against another sort of spills into everything else that I do. I've got a watch list for buys, the best candidates to take advantage of what we would call relative performance strength, leaders, if you will. But I also have a watch list for my favorite sells, and these are going to be what people will call a laggard. I'll also call a relative performance leader to the downside, because you can lead to the downside and there's value in that. Those would be my favorite sells. So I'm going to have two lists, not one that can go with either of the scenarios. That to me is absolutely wrong. We want a list that's going to allow us to take advantage of best of breed either way. Best of breed or worst of breed, however you want to look at it. All right, so what do we have here? This is the XLF, and I believe the XLF for a number of reasons, both technically and from a timing perspective. Also, we've got earnings in our rear view mirror. XLF has basically wandered up into an area where I think there's a good resistance zone. This is the top of the range for me, starting with the 200 EMA at the top, about 26.45, down to about 26 even, where we have a Darvis level right back in here. This zone is going to be a sell zone for me. And if we wander up into that zone with bullish momentum, I could buy puts, or as long as we're in this area up in here, just up in here, I'll look to short XLF. Now, the thing that I want to remember is that XLF is a made-up thing, right? It's made up of a number of stocks. We'll get to that in just a moment. From a technical perspective, again, the 200 is in play, this Darvis level is in play, and as is what we call the ready aim fire, which is an indicator that shows when a market is oversold and then overbought. Now, why would I think about overbought, oversold? Because I still feel that within the confines of this larger Darvis, this is a market in chop. I know that for some folks, you would call that a downtrend. I would probably agree, but we have not been green enough for long enough for me to call the current iteration of strength an uptrend. This to me is bullish, no doubt, but I will not call that an uptrend. Now, if you feel that's an uptrend, look, you'll basically buy pullbacks. That would be the best way to go. So it's not like you can't trade this as an uptrend. If you feel that this market is going to continue higher, if we trade down to the bottom of the range in terms of the trend, jump in between about 25.30 and 24.85, right? But if you're like me and you think this is a very vulnerable, maybe it's a fresh uptrend, but it's mostly chop, this becomes a short in this area. Now, if the FOMC sounds accommodative, I think ultimately what happens in the trade that I've set up is that we'll look for downside. We'll look for downside in the move. So we'll look for something like this. So that's where I start to think about how I can position myself in this market and again, technically what's going on. So let's take the next step, okay, and I'll make this quick. And that is, what are the stocks inside of this? Now in the premium video, I'm going to dive a whole lot more into the structure of the 8, 13, 21 EMAs that we use these propulsion indicators for. The yellow, the green, and the red dots on my screen. We'll talk about the red grab candles or the blue grab candles. So really basically here, what are charts that are neutral? Neutral, look at the blue grab candles. Neutral, look at the blue grab candles. Chop, look at the mix of the red, blue, and grab candles. Okay, what about bullishness? This is more bullish. This is certainly more bullish. Probably the relative performance leader. City bullish, well, semi-bullish. So look at where we're green on the grab candles. Look at where we're blue, and look at where we're choppy. So here you've got chop. Here you've got consolidation, or kind of a channel, if you will. Here as well, you've got more of that channel versus chop, right? But they're sideways. And then of these 11 names, how many are up? Quite a few. So what I'm looking for is, are those names that are relative performance leaders running into resistance? Okay, the green grab candles are not enough. Now what I need to do is start to ask myself, are there Darvis levels that are containing this market? And if the FOMC is basically going to come in and, sound accommodative, does that ultimately send these markets lower? Look at every one of these that I have a up arrow on. They do have a nearby Darvis resistance level. It's not like we've smashed through those levels. Very interesting, on the precipice of a day that could shift opinion. They're right at levels that we could exhaust at in every one of these up situations. Hence, the overall short and XLF. Hope that helps, understanding the way in which I look at the strength and weakness. XLF, by the way, is an important name for futures traders. Think about the weighting sectors have within the larger averages. Keep that in mind. I think a lot of folks forget that these indexes are made up of not only individual stocks, but stocks of an individual sector. Keep an eye on those. It's going to give you a lot of assistance. It's going to give you a lot of guidance as you navigate your way through these markets. Okay, hope that helped. Kind of a beefy recap video. I'll see you in the next one.